Good morning, all. This is Jack from Charting the Markets, and this is the Bigger Picture webinar for the morning of Wednesday, the 20th of August. My disclaimer, it is for educational purposes only. I'm here to share my technical analysis with you. I hope you can take some of what I'm doing, learn from it, transfer it to your own charts. I'm not here to issue trading signals. Right. Okay, let's have a look at where we are. Hoping, assuming most of you read the post I did a couple of days ago talking about where we are on equities and talking about consolidation or retracement here. We saw a bit of retracement yesterday and we didn't see the retest of the high I was expecting to see first. Doesn't make a huge amount of difference. Topping tends to happen in different ways, but here you could argue we've got a little double top or alternatively a head and shoulders which has broken down and pretty much made the target overnight. We haven't made any significant breaks so far. I'm still regarding this as a topping process, but of course there is a chance that we continue down, and I would say we had every opportunity to set up positive divergence on the hourly charts last night, and I was thinking we might well see that this morning, and we didn't get it this morning. All right, NQ, we had a very nice flag channel which broke down. We're getting pretty close to the monthly pivot. We closed on the daily middle band, and we'll see how it goes from here. But I think this obviously the flag is no longer in play. We could be forming a head and shoulders here. I'm waiting to see. We haven't seen any significant support break yet, but I'll talk more about that on the daily charts. Sorry, on the RTH charts. Okay, could we still be forming a flag here on RTY? Yes. Is it compelling? It would be more compelling if we were seeing some buy signals. As it is, we've lost the flag on NQ, so not particularly compelling. We could be forming a bullish triangle here on YM. This has been the strongest so far from the high. I'll show you why I'm saying that on the bigger picture charts, but the 6-minute sell signal has reached a possible near miss target. That could be it. DAX, this looks like a little ball flag forming, and ESTX, I was looking for a retest of the June high, and that was it. So we've tagged that, but we haven't seen the retest of the all-time high on DAX that I'm also expecting. All right, great. Let's have a look at the bigger picture charts. Okay, right. Looking at the daily charts, on ES, we got down as low as, yesterday was 64.19, and we've got the middle band at 64.07. So we got pretty close to it. Not a full test yet. We could see that today, of course. On SPX, we got pretty close as well. On looking at the Qs, we actually closed on the band. That is at 556. And well, we closed marginally below it. We closed at 569.28, but in effect, that is a close on the band. So testing that now. If we start breaking some daily middle bands again, obviously that does open the way to more downside. I'll have a look at the potential topping patterns there, but obviously we haven't reached that point yet. Dia has been actually held up the best so far and is the furthest away from the daily middle band. Last to come up, last to come down. On IWM, on the daily chart, again, like Dia, this is quite a way away from the daily middle band. I was saying, of course, that we reached the 3SD upper band, and I was saying that this generally was something which would deliver, as well as the trend line setup here, would deliver some consolidation or retracement. So I think that's what we're seeing. Have we fallen far enough that precludes a retest of the high? Far from it. We could easily see retest the high, and we'll see how that goes. All right, let's have a look at the hourly charts. Looking at SPX, we have broken through. If this trend line was valid, which it isn't, we're still on the original wedge support trend line because we never made it back to wedge resistance, then we would have broken that. Obviously, we've got a potential asymmetric double top or part formed head and shoulders here. This could well be the low before the high for a decent retracement. Am I looking for a big reversal here? No. Is there a prospect of possibility of doing that? Yes. Always, but at the moment I'm not seeing any sign of it. All right, Qs. Hang on, wait a second. Right, Qs. On the hourly chart, on the SPX chart, we had an RSI 14 and an RSI 5 sell signal fix, and we had the RSI 5 sell signal reached full target, and the RSI 14 sell signals reached possible near miss target. So effectively, those are played out. On the Qs, we didn't have any sell signals. We have broken wedge support here. Until further notice, I am regarding this is a significant support break, and I'm regarding this as being in a topping process. Looking at Dire, Dire is not close to the rising support yet. We do have an obvious potential little level top here, which could get us there, and is starting to break down. But obviously, it needs to follow through. We've still got an RSI 14 sell signal fixed here, and the RSI 5 sell signal has reached the possible near miss target. On IWM, we didn't have any sell signals. We do have, again, I mean, Qs. This looks like a possible part 4 head and shoulders with support in about the 55168 area. On Dire, this is actually a very nice looking double top. So hasn't really started delivering yet, but it's nice. IWM, this is pretty decent looking. Well, it's like kind of like SPX. It could be an asymmetric double top, or it could be a part formed head and shoulders. Either way, we would need to see some more downside here to set up a serious move down, and it may be that we're not done with high retest before we do that. In terms of the daily charts, just want to mention, I was talking in my last post about the signal setup here. What about RSI 5 sell signals? We've come down too far on SPX to get that. I was thinking we would retest the high first, we get a divergence and go down. We've now gone too far to get that divergence here. On the Qs, the same. We've almost made it back to the 30 level on the daily RSI 5. On Dire, yeah, we can still get it, but that was one of the weaker ones already because this hadn't gone as far above the 70 level. And looking at IWM, yes, we could absolutely retest the high and set up a RSI 5 sell signal, but this isn't the ideally you see more sell signals than this when you turn. Doesn't mean it has to be, but it's higher confidence when you do see it. So this isn't quite the way that I was hoping it would play out so far. But at the moment, we're holding these very nice trend lines that I was pointing out. We've got 2 trend lines that were hit. Hang on, wait a second. Right, SPX, we didn't hit the trend line, but we're still on the original wedge. That has broken down, and this still looks like topping from this original one, which broke down a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now. On Qs, we did hit the resistance trend line. I redrew the support trend line, and we've broken that now. Dire, we reached the trend line too. That hasn't broken down yet, but it's nice, and these are all very, very nice resistance trend lines. IWM, we didn't quite make it, almost made it. So I didn't redraw it in here. So really, this trend line here has basically broken down already. That's still the valid trend line. And actually, if I extend this line slightly higher up, you can see that was a pretty decent back test too. So we will see how it goes from here, but I'm really liking these wedges. And while it could be that we're just going to crawl up for a while underneath the resistance trend lines, I'm really liking the odds for a retracement here. So we shall see how that goes. All right, great. Let's have a look at the dollar. Okay, looking at the dollar, we're forming a potential. We've still got a head and shoulder target, which is down in the 96.8 area, but we could still be forming a bear flag here. But I have to say, this is looking a little more bullish than it was. We did have this nice looking falling wedge that broke up. This could be an inverted head and shoulders forming, in which case I'd be looking for a right shoulder form from the 98.5 area, but really it could start forming here, so watching that with interest. Looking at the others, USD, this is just trading sideways. GBP USD, this looks like a small bull flag forming. USD JPY, possible double bottom here, but I've got a lot more to say on the daily chart here. USD CAD, we went up and retested this high. This could be the second high of a double top, but there is another significant possibility that you can see on the daily chart. Australian dollar is pretty close to coming back and retesting this low. I've got a target there, which obviously hasn't been reached yet, but it's thinking about it. And NZUSD has already retested the low and gone lower. All right, let's have a look at those on the bigger picture charts. US dollar. So this still looks like a bear flag, which is setting up a potential retest of the low. So now the original IHS hasn't failed. We could break up from here, but I have to say this is a nice enough bull flag. It's starting to break down, and I'm really wondering whether that's going to deliver and move down to the lows. Looking at USD. Not a lot to say, no negative divergence, just trading sideways at the moment. GBP USD, We've still got a we had a head and shoulders here. It broke down. I'm going to take off the arrow there because actually this head and shoulders failed, and that is suggesting that we're going to see a retest of this high on GBP, and obviously on the hourly chart, I'm not seeing anything to disagree with that. Looking at USD JPY. Not a lot to say. Wondering if this might be a bear flag setting up another move down. USD CAD though is this is interesting. We're getting back to the daily middle band here. I am wondering whether this could be a head and shoulders forming here. I'm wondering whether we're going to see this little retest of the high here, and then we've got a double top, which then takes us back to the head and shoulder neckline, and then potentially it goes down again. Both of these, USD CAD and USD JPY, would be bearish for the dollar and suggesting that retest of the line. Looking at USD CAD on the daily chart, I would note that we've got a possible inverted head and shoulders here, which is trying to break up. That could deliver, but if we are going to do what I was talking about on this chart here, then we would probably foul here and go down. Because this would be the right shoulder high, really, on that head and shoulders. On Australian dollar, it kind of looks like a rounding top with a natural move to the downside. And NZUSD, we've got a double top here, which is already broken down with a target in the 56.5 to 56.75 area. We've still got a mixed picture here. I mean, from the dollar's point of view, although obviously the Australian dollar and NZ aren't actually part of the dollar index, I don't think. Both of these are suggesting that the dollar would be going up while these would be going down. And both USD CAD and USD JPY are kind of leaning towards going down here. So we will see how it goes, because those are positively correlated with the dollar. Okay, let's have a look at bonds. Now on bonds, this is a potential inverted head and shoulders forming. We had a little buy signal, and that's reached possible there, missed target. But the main thing is I was saying this was kind of looking like a flag forming, and we've got a lovely flag here. It is nice. It really is nice. So I'm thinking this. It's already back over the monthly pivot. I'm thinking if this can break up back over the weekly pivot, then we've got a pretty clear run to flag resistance, which I've currently got in about the 115.26 area. Looking at ZN. Less of a flag here, but not a bad one. And again, wondering about a retest of this high. So we shall see. All right, looking at those on the bigger picture. On TNX. TNX, on the hourly chart, we've got an RSI 14 sell signal that's fixed. Relatively weak, but this is suggesting downside here, while on upside on the on ZB and TLT. TLT, I didn't get any corresponding signal. This kind of all looks like a bull flag. On TYX, nothing really on the daily, but obviously we've been holding these highs here. Pretty close to 51, 53. We're still basically just under 50. We've been trading sideways here. This is suggesting another retest of the high in due course, but in the short term, I'm leaning towards this going lower. All right, let's have a look at the oils. Now, oils. I'm going to be doing a post on the bigger picture on oils to talk about the bigger picture. I'm thinking we may well go down to the mid-50s first, maybe lower than 50, but unless we see a breakdown here, what we're looking at here on the bigger picture is a bottoming process for this to go significantly higher. And actually, I am wondering if that might correlate with a big fall on the dollar, which would, of course, be bullish for oil, which is valued in the dollar, but of course if the dollar goes down, the tendency would be for it to go up. So I'm still in two minds about where the dollar is. We've still got a pretty bullish looking setup, and that hasn't been validated yet. But obviously the administration is not doing a great deal to keep the value of the dollar up or keep interest in the dollar high. So we will see. All right, in the short term on CL, we've got a falling wedge which is broken up. And we have potential bottoming action, although it's not particularly clear, but this could be an inverted head and shoulders. Not of awesome quality, but not bad. So I am wondering whether that might be setting up a small rally, but obviously, given the size of it, this would be a small rally. But that actually is not a bad little inverted head and shoulders. I'm wondering if that might deliver. So we will see how that goes. Sorry, I'll just leave that drawn in do it the way I would normally do it. All right, looking at the others, heating oil, we actually made the head and shoulder target here, and we've been seeing a bit of a rally. This could be an overall bull flag, but it's not currently a well-formed one, and we definitely don't have a channel, or at least we didn't have one last time I looked. Do we have one now? No, not really. So I'm not really seeing a support trend line there, so it's not a strong flag. RBOB, broke up from a little double bottom. I'm leaning towards seeing another retest of the low here. That is the flag. That is this big flag that broke down. That's the flag target. Might need a bit more of a rally before we do that. Obvious resistance at the monthly pivot at 1.9884. Looking at NG. NG, we've got a nice looking falling wedge here, and it's retested the low, so we've got a pretty decent looking little double bottom. If we retest this tiny little overnight low, then we'll have possible 60-minute buy signal brewing. I'm thinking this is probably overdue a rally. We could. I'm also wondering if we might see a low, because on the bigger picture, we are entering a seasonal period where, from current level, it would normally go up 50% over the next 4 months. So that's a lot of pressure to the upside. So I am wondering if we might see a low soon. That doesn't really get started for another 3 or 4 weeks. Possibly as many as 6, but I'm watching out for it, because of course it might start earlier than that. All right, looking at oil, bigger picture. The bullish picture is that we've got big falling wedges which have broken up on all of the oils. We've got one on WTIC, we've got one on heating oil, and we've got another very similar one on gas oil. In terms of Fibonacci retracements, we've also reached good levels, all kicking around basically 61%, 61.8 retracements from these moves here, and really this looks like it's reversing. Now we could expand these wedges by getting down to the wedge support, but I'm not really looking for much below wedge support, which on WTIC is currently in about the 54 area. And I am thinking that it could go, as and when this bottoming process finishes, the natural way to go would be up a lot. So possibly as high as this high here at 126.42 in time, but certainly we're forming potential double bottoms here that could get us back up over 100. So that would be the natural lean. Do these patterns typically play out? Yes. There's quite a few of them here. They do tend to play out. The last big one we were doing, admittedly, it was a lot bigger than this. It took what was it, a decade to form, just like over, and played out like a champ. It's this may well do the same. Equally, I don't know. I mean, obviously, there's so many things that can affect oil: war in the Middle East, economic output, recessions, big expansions. So, I mean, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things in the mix. Sanctions, of course, if Russia actually gets sanctioned, although that seems very unlikely at the moment. But if Russia gets sanctioned further, then of course, if that gets taken off the market, that could increase the oil price a lot. So, but over here, overall, we've got a pretty decent looking bullish setup. On that gas, it looks bearish, and that's because we had a double bottom here which broke up and hasn't officially failed, because you don't get a fail level on double bottom, but it's currently not too promising. And we've got this decent looking flag here. It hasn't made flag support yet. I'm thinking it might well make it, but if that is a flag and it breaks down, then obviously the target would be a retest of this low here at 1.686. And I'm thinking we might make that. We will see. So in the short term, we've got an RSI 5 buy signal fixed, and it hasn't failed yet, but it's been really thinking about it. We're hitting a potential support trend line here, but of course, if this isn't a wedge, this could actually be a head and shoulders, which could break down. But as I said, we are reaching a seasonally bullish period, and until we see evidence to the contrary, I would always be inclined to respect that, particularly a strong bullish period like the one we're looking at starting. All right, looking at GC, we've got a nice looking falling wedge here, which is breaking up. This is nice. It's pretty solid. I'm thinking that we might actually be starting another move up. I would love to see a retest of the high that is way over here. SI, this looks like a bull flag forming. It no longer looks like a bull flag forming. Doesn't mean we're not bottoming out though. We actually got a weak 60-minute buy signal fixed here. I'm leaning towards the upside, but now it needs to get back over the monthly pivot at 37.56. If it can't get back over that, then I'd be looking for a retest this low in the 36.25 area. Looking at palladium, again, nice looking falling wedge. Hasn't broken up yet. It had broken up, but then we got back to wedge support, so I've drawn it as unbroken. But if this breaks up, then this is certainly thinking about a rally. On platinum, platinum hasn't made target yet because we have this very nice looking bear flag, and it's broken down with a target to retest this low, and we haven't reached that yet. It is possible, though, that we could be forming a larger flag, A, B, C, and could go a bit higher while that is forming. All right, HG, we've got a pretty nice looking flag here, and that's broken down, and that's got a target not far below at all. We're currently in the 4.42 area. I've got this target in about the 4.34 area, 4.33, not far below at all. But then this is what you get when you have a very shallow flag. We do have a possible 60-minute buy signal brewing, and I'm wondering if that might fix and take us a little higher. We could, of course, form a larger bear flag here too. All right, let's have a look at the bigger picture charts, and on gold, no current divergence. We are basically trading sideways. This could go a number of ways. We could form a triangle. We could head down for another leg and then form a larger bull flag. One way or another, though, this looks like a bull flag, and the target, as and when, is going to be a retest this high here at 3,500. It would be nice to get that out of the way, but I would note that we're back under the daily middle band at the moment. Looking at silver, silver is also back under the daily middle band. No obvious pattern here. We had this double top which broke down. Could still make target, but I'm not really feeling a lot of confidence in the pattern. Looking at palladium, we've seen a nice little move up here. We've seen a sharp retracement. We've still got an RSI 14 sell signal fix that hasn't reached target yet, but we've now got a possible RSI 5 buy signal brewing. We never quite made it to this resistance, but overall this does look rather like a flag. In terms of platinum, we've obviously reached decent trendline resistance, and we broke over it slightly, but it just looks like a Pinocchio at the moment. This is the sort of thing that could be a bear flag, and we could be starting. We're looking at the start of a serious move down. On the RSI 14 sell signal, we made the RSI 5 sell signal. RSI 14 sell signal, I think that's got some lower to go, and I'm leaning towards seeing a retest this low here at 12.5730. Could that be a head and shoulders? Not a good one, though. So potentially. All right, looking at copper. Copper, I'm leaning lower into at least a retest this low here in the 3.9 area. Sorry, this trend line here in 3.9 area, and maybe well be lower than that. I'm not really expecting great things of lumber. It's under a lot of tariffs at the moment. Demand in the US will be dropping. We'll see. In terms of the short term, this looks like flags broken down. If it does break down and make target and we test this low, that could set up some decent buy signals, Brian. None of those at the moment, of course. Looking at GDXJ, we saw a decline yesterday, and this has made the sell signals that I was talking about at the weekend. It made it on GDXJ, it made it on GDX, and so we've finished with sell signals. Could go lower. Not seeing an awful lot to suggest that it's going to. So could this be a double top? Yes. Could this be part formed head and shoulders? Yes, but they're both a bit thin. There's nothing particularly compelling on either. All right, let's have a look at the other commodities. All right, KC has broken up with a target in the IHS target in the 370 area. I'm not currently seeing much to suggest that won't make target, but we do have a possible 60-minute sell signal break. SB, there are two options here. We're forming another. We did have a potential IHS, and obviously, I gave up on that last week. But we've now made this high, and we've got another potential IHS here. This isn't bad and could be breaking up. I'm still leaning lower, but if it doesn't go down to retest this low, then we could break up from here, and that would have a target in approximately the, what would that be? right about the 1880 area. So we'll see. CC, haven't quite made it to the target here in the 8950 area. It looks like a bull flag forming. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see if we touch this trend line here, because a touch and reversal there would suggest that overall we might be forming a bear flag. CT, we've got a nice looking double bottom that's broken up here. This looks like a consolidation before we go up and make that target. Not seeing anything to suggest otherwise at the moment. Needs to get back over and convert the monthly pivot at 67.84. Looking at lumber. This looks like bottoming action at the moment, and we've got a possible 60-minute buy signal brewing. I'm leaning towards seeing some kind of a rally. ZW. The double bottom is not aging like fine wine here. We keep going lower, even though we've got a buy signal fix. And this is starting to look like a part-formed IHS rather than a double bottom. On corn, potential part-formed IHS here too. 60-minute sell signal is fixed. Been pulling it down a bit. Hasn't reached the possible near miss target yet, so likely you've got some more downside there. Soy, well, I was looking towards seeing retest this high. We haven't quite seen that yet. This could be a bull flag forming. If so, we could see a test of the weekly pivot at 102.550. On soybean oil, we had a nice looking double bottom here after the wedge broke up, and we have not broken up from that, and we've gone and retested the lows, so I've redrawn it, and we've got another potential level bottom here, which of course could break down as well. We will see. No current divergence, but it would just take a retest this short-term low to get some. Live cattle, this looks like a triangle which is breaking up with a target at a retest of this high. Haven't quite made that yet. And lean hogs, I'm still wondering about an overall bear flag forming or having formed and broken down here. All right, let's have a look at the big picture charts on those. Coffee, if this is an overall bull flag, which it might be, the obvious next target would be up here in about the 4.05 area. We've been seeing a decent move for that. And is it of a size where it could be a bull flag? Yes, it is. So we'll see how it goes. Sugar, we've still got this apocalypse pattern going down, but really it's a bit oversized, and I'm leaning towards a bullish option. If it delivers, would look just fine. So in terms of short term here, I'm looking at what looks like a falling wedge. Apologies about my cat in the background. And we've got a weak RSI 14 buy signal, which hasn't made target yet. Could this be an alternate IHS forming? Yes. It could be. We will see how that goes. All right, looking at cocoa. Cocoa, like coffee, is kind of over its way out of its normal price comfort level, and may well be heading down further. We've got an IHS here. It hasn't failed yet, but it's really thinking about it. We've got an IHS that broke up here. If it breaks back down, then well, it goes back down. Let's have a look at that, because that doesn't look particularly like what we're looking at here. Why does that not look like it? Could be forming a larger IHS here, of course. We'll see. But that pattern, hang on, wait a second, let's have a quick look. Because I'm looking at different patterns here. Okay. For some reason, I think because this is the continuous chart, it's looking as though the IHS is close to failure here, but it's actually not. I would be following the one on the hourly chart for that. All right, looking at wheat. Wheat, possible bottoming action, but I'd really like to see a retest this low here at 495.5. We've not quite made it yet. Corn did make the target, obvious target, which is a retest of 385. Possible follow-on target at 307.25, but not really expecting it. But I would say that if we were to reach this trend line here, then of course we could go below it. Looking at corn, RSI 5 buy signal fixed, possible RSI 14 buy signal brewing, possible trend line support. Wondering about a rally here. But bigger picture, bigger picture, this could be a double bottom. I wouldn't be surprised to see this reverse back up here. Soybeans have been seeing a nice rally here, but bigger picture, this looks an awful lot like a bear flag. And I've been looking at it as a flag basically for most of 2025. So I'm still liking it as a flag. And if this is a flag and we are retesting the low, I'd be leaning towards that being the second low of a double bottom and then come back up, but we'd still need to retest the low first. And I'm still leaning towards that happening. Short term, this looks like a potential little old top. We will see. All right, looking at cotton. Cotton, we've got a potential level bottom here. We're seeing the slightest of breaks over this declining resistance, but we're going to need more from this if it is actually going to break up. If it does, we've got a lot more potential upside here. And I would love to see that. Looking at lumber, this looks like an overall bear flag, and this looks as though we are heading back into flag support and could potentially going back to retest this low at the start of 2023. I'm all on board for that. I would like to see it. This is a nice potential level top, and this has been a promising start on a top, which looked as though it was coming. We do have a little bit of positive divergence here. All right, great. Let's have a look at crypto. Now, I did a post on this yesterday, and we saw some. Hang on. Okay, sorry, I haven't opened these charts yet. Let's just do that now. All right. Yesterday, I did a post about talking about a possible further retracement here, and we have actually reached one of the interesting targets that I was talking about there. That target was on Ethereum. Ethereum, I was saying that, bear with me a moment, we could go back and retest the daily middle band here, and we did. And we closed a bit above it after a full retest. I was saying that that was supported as support by this previous high here at 4109 and this previous high here at 4092. This is a really nice backtest level, and that could be it. So I'm watching for support here. We could see that. Looking at Bitcoin, we've got a potential level top here. Obviously, as you can see, we are heading towards the double top support. If that breaks down, that would have a target in the 99 to 100 area, and that too is a big level. Or at least not a huge level, but a decent one. And this low is there. I'm wondering whether we could see that. But if Ethereum's going to hold here, then we probably won't. Looking at Solana, we're testing the daily middle band, not with a huge amount of conviction, but we saw it close below it yesterday, and at the moment we have spent some of the day, including right now, trading below it. If we break that, that's a significant break and could open more downside, but we don't have an awful lot in the way of a pattern here. But we could be forming one, but if this is a head and shoulders, it's oversized, and I wouldn't like it. So this would be reversing the trend from here, and it's too close to it. So I'm not really seeing an awful lot more downside, but we will see how that goes. But if we do break the daily middle band, I would note that we've got further support not far below at the 50 DMA at 173.70. And we could see a retest of that, and that too is a significant support level. All right, great. We shall see. All right, great. In that case, that's a wrap. I'll catch you guys again on Sunday, and everyone take care.